Hello, my friends. I wanted to go over the purchase agreement, a part of a purchase agreement that came up today with one of my agents that I was talking to. She had an inspection that was scheduled, so she came to me and she said that she had put an inspection today, and she was supposed to be there. The buyer was supposed to be there, and so was the inspector. They all showed up, and unfortunately, the seller had turned off all the utilities, and they could not inspect the property. So I advised her that it was the responsibility of the seller to make sure all the utilities are on for the buyer to make sure that they can properly do their inspections. But her concern was that her contingencies were up, and how does that affect the buyer's right? So I'm going to share my screen and show you where such an issue arises. Now, I am here in the California residential purchase agreement, and so what we are going through is as you can see, this is RPACA. This is the page 1, and I'm going to take you to actually page 5 of the contract and show you the section where this is actually discussed. So you can see we're talking about condition of the property. We're then talking about buyer's investigations of property and matters affecting the property. And item C in here says seller shall have water, gas, electricity, and all operable pilot lights on for buyer's investigations and through the date possession and made available to buyer, which basically means that that the seller has an obligation to make sure that utilities are on throughout the transaction, and they cannot take that off or basically impede with the buyer doing their investigations. And as part of that, I'm also going to take you over here to time periods, which is page 6 of the contract. Time periods, removal of contingencies, cancellation rights. So if you look at this, then I wanted to bring it to this continuation of contingency. Even after the end of the time specified in paragraph 14B, and before seller cancels, if at all, pursuant to paragraph 14D, buyer retains the right in writing to either remove remaining contingencies or cancel this agreement based on a remaining contingency. Once buyer's written removal of all contingencies is delivered to seller, seller may not cancel this agreement. So this brings us to the fact that that the buyer has the right to keep the property under contract, but at the same time, buyer has to make sure that they are abiding by the time period. So if the 17 days was what the buyer and seller agreed to for their investigation period, then the buyer needs to make sure that those investigations are happening within the 17 days. And if something like this comes up where the buyer is going to do their investigation, but the seller has not made sure that the utilities are on to the property, then buyer is still bound by that 17-day contingency period. So if the buyer wants to protect themselves, then the agent needs to include a form of extension of time and attach to this to the purchase agreement, and then specify that the extension is for buyer's investigation, and then extend that to whatever date that they want. It may be a week or maybe 2 weeks, whatever amount of time that they need. They need to make sure to include this with the purchase agreement. So attach this to the purchase agreement and extend their contingency period, just so that they're safe and that the seller is not going to serve them a notice to perform for non-performance. And this is in case that we have a seller that may have another offer and wants to make sure that they have a way to get out of that contract. So that is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for being with me today, and I hope this was helpful for you. Have a great day.